Okay, for this assignment S5, employee data, we are still working on section 2, managing data cells and ranges for the Microsoft Excel certification and management 1400. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more practice on some things that we've done before. So make sure you're on the employee data tab. And the first thing we're going to do is sort by last name, then by first name. And we're going to use the sort in the data tab. So go to the data tab, click on sort, and make sure we're within a range. That was a good thing to do. So notice I wasn't anywhere. So make sure you have to click on your table or range so that Excel recognizes that. So we'll do that again. Click on the data tab, click sort, and now it's asking us, we want to sort by, and notice that it says my data has headers here to the right. Make sure that's clicked. We want to make sure that's clicked because it's going to ask us to sort by what our column header is. So we want to sort by last name in alphabetical order, and then we're going to add a level, sort by first name. Now this doesn't show very much as we only have 20 rows of data, but imagine if we have 10,000 employees or 15,000, or like Walmart does, over 250,000 employees. You may have a lot of people with the same last name, and maybe even a few with the same last name and first name. So when you're sorting, you can add levels. But in this case, it's just going to be last name, first name, and click OK. And notice we have Harper Castillo at the very top. The next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to do some different fills. We're going to right click on column B, and we're going to insert a column. We've deleted columns and stuff like that before. Now we're going to insert a column. And we're just going to rename it. Notice that it's keeping the same formatting up there. And we're just going to name that EID, short for employee ID. And under employee ID, now we're going to do a simple sort or a simple fill. So I'm just going to add a 1 and then a 2. And notice that right here I can highlight the 1 and 2, and then I'll double click this little green box down here at the bottom. That's your best friend in Excel. If I double click, notice it fills down my 20 rows. Okay. The other way you can do that, we're going to do this here, EID, I'm going to type in employee ID number, EID, and we're going to use 10,001 as an example. And then we'll do EID 10,002. And besides double clicking, I can also highlight and then just drag. And because I only have 20 rows, that is something that you would drag. If it's more than 20 rows, you don't want to drag that down. So we worked on doing some fills in our first employee data sheet. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to hop over to our Superstore tab here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do some copy and pasting. Over here, I'm going to do it a little bit different than what you've done before. We're going to remove duplicates while we do a copy and paste. So notice I have this sample Superstore customer and sales data here in this table. And I want to break it out by state and know their total revenue, total cost of goods sold, and total profit. But I don't have that information right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do copy and paste, and we can type in the states, but what we'll do here is shift control down. So put your cursor into D3, do shift control down arrow. So hold down the shift button, the control, and the down arrow, and that will highlight that column for you. You can also scroll down. In this case, we only have 57 rows, but we don't always know how many rows. And there's two ways you can do it. We can right click on this, or we can click our Control C button on our keyboard. We can click Control C, and let me go back here and do this and highlight. Shift Command down. We did that. Control C. That copies it. I'm going to go here on I3 and click Paste, which is Control V, or you can click Paste. And while it's highlighted, I'm going to do certain. So if you got out of that and didn't highlight it, you can click on it and highlight it again. But what we're going to do is we'll go up here to the Data tab, and we're going to choose remove duplicates. And that's over here in the data tools grouping. And sometimes depending upon the width of your screen and things like that, we talked about this before on whether or not all the text comes up on these. So it's this blue, white, and blue with the X. So I'm going to scroll over here and click remove duplicates. And now what is done is um, it will take out all the duplicates and just have the data. And I'm going to choose continue with current selection. We don't need to expand it. We just want to do our current one. Remove duplicates. My data has headers. Uncheck that because we didn't use the header in this case. If we leave that checked, it's going to look as Kentucky as a header. So I'm going to uncheck that and click OK. And notice it got rid of 39 duplicates and 16 unique values remain. And we have from Kentucky to New York. Now, while we're in this, I'm going to highlight this because you need to learn how to do this. I'm going to highlight this, and notice I have this blue and the white because this is a table over here, and every other line is a different color, every other row. And I don't want that in here. I'm going to highlight my data here, go to my home button, click on my fill, which is your paint can over here, and I'm just going to click no fill. Okay, and we're going to play around with that in a little bit. Okay, so the next is we're going to run over. We're working with copying and filling right now, and so while we're here in this one, notice that I have under here total revenue, total cost of goods sold, and total profit, and you can see the formulas there. So besides copying and pasting text or filling in numbers, you can also copy and paste formulas, which we'll talk more about this in later lessons. This is something that's very important that we want to do. So I can have my total revenue here, and again, there's two ways I can do it. I can drag it down. This will copy my formula. Now notice that when that happens under New York, I don't have my yellow there anymore. And so if I want to keep my same formatting, in my autofill options down at the bottom, I can click the drop down and do fill without formatting, so it doesn't overwrite my formatting. And notice that New York is highlighted on this total revenue. On cost of goods sold, we can just drag it down as an example. So we can double click, and I'm going to do fill without formatting, so it keeps the yellow. And then in total profit, I'm just going to double click. And we'll come back and do some stuff here in a minute when we deal with that. So now we're going to talk about deleting some columns and rows. We're going to stay in our same tab. Here we're going to work on this Superstore tab. And notice that when I put my cursor in A1, I have data in A1. My sample Superstore customer and sales data is in A1. And if I delete this, even though my data goes across multiple columns, it's all in column 1, because if I click on B1, you can see in my formula bar that there's no data there. So the data is actually in A1, and I want to keep it. So we're going to do a cut and paste. We've done copy and paste before. So one of the easiest ways to do this is we're going to use Control X. That is cut. We got Control C, which is copy, and Control V, which is paste. We're going to do Control X. So I'll click on A and A1, Control X, and then I'm going to come over here to C1. I'm going to click on C1. I have no data in there right now. I'm going to click Control V. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see. I got my data up here. Control X, Control V. Just had to do it twice. And now I have my data over here in Control C or in C1. And the reason I did that is because we're going to delete the columns. And I want you to notice something before we delete the columns. Let's look over here at my total revenue. And if I double click my total revenue, it's showing that my range is D and E, which is where I'm getting it from. So it's pointing to Kentucky, and it's showing everything that's coming back from Kentucky. And my ranges are D. You can see that they're D3 to D57 and then E3 to E57. This is one of the great things about Excel. Let me just click anywhere out of here, click escape so I don't mess with my formula. And now I'm going to highlight columns A and B because maybe I don't need it. Maybe I don't need order ID and customer ID in this case, because I've got this range over here of state and or total profit. So I'm going to highlight again A and B, and then I'm going to right click and hit delete. And now A and B are gone, but look what happened to my formula. My formula stays pointing to the right cells, but instead of E, D and E, it's now B and C. So that's one of the great things about Excel. And it kept my information here. Now we're going to scroll to the bottom of this, and we've deleted columns. Now we're going to delete the row. We're going to delete row 59. So just right click and click delete. You will need to do this on your exam. And we're going to stay in Superstore for a little bit here because we're going to do some formatting right now. So right now we're going to do a merge and center. We've done a merge across. We're going to do a merge and center. So we're going to highlight A through E on row 1. Make sure we're in our home tab, and we're going to do in our alignment grouping merge and center. And if we wanted to keep the same formatting, we would just do merge across. But this time we're going to do merge and center. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to see that we have this yellow down here that's highlighted under New York, and our total profit's not highlighted, nor the state of New York, and maybe we want it all highlighted. So we're going to click on this total revenue yellow. We're going to come up here on our home screen. Right underneath the home button is our paintbrush. We'll click our paintbrush and then just click on the name New York, and it just takes the formatting from one to the other. And while we're on New York, we'll click our paintbrush again, and we'll click under total profit. Now that's one way to do it, one at a time. But notice on row 2, I have 2 different colors. I have the blue, and then I have that green or the teal. And I want the state, total revenue, total cost of goods sold, and total profit to be the same formatting as my customer name and all that, including text size and all that. So with the paintbrush, I'm just going to click on E2, which is our profit line. I'm going to click on the paintbrush. I'm going to click on G2 as state, but I'm going to hold down my left mouse button, and I'm just going to drag over, and we can see that all of it has changed to the same size font and background. And then one of the things that you're going to have to do in your exam, and we're going to practice this a few times, is that you notice that my state is right justified because I brought profit over and it was right justified, but I want it to be left justified. I want state to be over Kentucky and all that. So I'm going to click on state. While I'm in my home tab, I'm going to go to my alignment grouping, and I'm going to choose left justified. So it's easier to read. The other thing we're going to do on this tab that you also have to do on your exam is you have to change decimal points. So notice out here under sales and profit, it goes out 1 decimal point here in the text, but up here it shows 2. So we want to show both decimal points. So I'm going to click on C3. I'm going to do Shift Control down. So I'm going to highlight that column. And then over here under my number alignment, you have a lot of different things you can do. But the one here is increase decimal points. So you'll have to do that on your exam, increase or decrease decimal points. You can add a comma for thousands. You can add percentage. You can add dollar signs, or you can be custom. And there's a lot that you can do here. In this case, we just want to increase the decimal points to 2. And we're going to do that under profit. So I can scroll down, but normally get used to just Shift Control and then the down arrow. You can scroll down, and then we will click over here under our number and increase our decimal point. So we just finished that too. And we're pretty good on the Superstore tab. So we did deleting columns and rows. We filled in some information. We copied down formulas, and we did changing on formatting and decimal points. But besides filling down, we can also fill across. So let's go to the Present tab, and we're going to do a couple things here on the Present tab. Notice we have whose turn it is to present and what month they're going to present in. We have our students, Michael, Rhonda, Jesse, Sarah, and we have the month of January. So we're going to click on January, and one of the things that we can do is we're just going to drag it over to M. So from B2, we're going to drag it to M, and it just filled in our months for us. And then between September and October, I'm going to double click. And between November and December, I'm going to double click again so that it widens our columns just enough for the data that's in there. But we're going to do a couple of other things while we're in this tab, because a few of the things that you need to do, besides some of the stuff we done over there, is work on formatting. And one of the things that they're going to ask you to format on this is, besides using the fill button that we've done here before, they're going to ask to do styles. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on row number 1, and under styles right here, we've got our cell styles. We're going to click down on cell styles, and it's going to ask you something like do a heading 1 or those type of things. We're going to choose heading 1 here, and so that takes our heading there and changes our heading. The other thing we're going to do is, notice from January through December, one of the things they're going to ask you to do is format and rotate text on the alignments on there. So on our home screen, we have our alignment, and we have this AB running up here, our orientation. We're going to do the drop down, and we're going to choose angle clockwise. So you can do vertical text, you can rotate it. In this case, you got angle clockwise or counterclockwise. We're going to choose angle counterclockwise. And you can see all of our text is up here like this. The last thing that we're going to do on this one is we're going to highlight cells B2 through M2, and we're going to choose another style. And it's going to ask you to do this on your exam. We're going to choose the drop down. In this case, we're going to choose the input style. So our data and model, we're going to just choose input, and it will tell you which one. And you see that we have this nice data here, and it's a lot easier to read on this. So we've just done some of our stuff in that tab. So on there. The next one is we're going to go back to employee data tab, and we're going to do some more with justifications. You'll need to do this on your exam, and we're going to name some ranges and those type of things. So notice that on column C, I am center justified, and column D, I'm left justified. So to make it easier to read, I'm going to highlight column C, and I'm going to do a left justification and align left. Now, just for me, notice that I have an employee ID here and the EID. You don't need to do this on your exam, but I do this because this 1 looks like is part of this number, 1 EID 1001. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to left justify it, but I don't like left justifying my column A with numbers, because now I got this 2 and this 1, this 3 and this 2. So I might come in here and center it and then resize it. So now it's easier to read there. And while we're on this tab, we're going to name a range, and we're also going to do other justification. So over here on H and I, notice that these are left justified, and this EID is also centered. We're going to left justify it, so it's over the text there. But on this age and hire date, we're going to right justify it. So that may ask you to right or left justify information, and here it is. That's how to do that. So now it's easier to read that I have my headers over my information. Okay. And show you one other trick on B1 right there. Notice that it's very close to employee ID, and it got EID. You can come here to alignment and just do a nudge, increase indent. And so we could do that for this whole thing. And then go back here and decrease my indentation. So again, it's easier to read that you know that this data is separate. Okay. Now over here on column H, we're going to put our cursor on H2. We're going to do Shift Control down. So we're going to highlight that column from H2 to H21. We can also go here in our name manager and type in H2, H21, enter. and it's highlighted that column for us. And we're going to name this column. We're going to do naming 3 different ways. We're going to name a table, we're going to name a range, and we're going to name this range right here, but we're going to use the name box for this one. The next one we're going to do naming a table in the table format, and the third one we will use define name. So right now on here I'm going to go to the name box, and this is just going to be called age. And I'll show you the reason why really quick. Let me come over here to K2, and I'm going to type in average age. Okay. And then click between my K and L and better size my column. And so let's say you needed to figure out the average age of your employees. You wanted to know that for purposes, say insurance purposes or those things, or diversity purposes. And normally you can come in and you could do a formula and you can drag all of this information, but this is just 20 rows of data. What if we had 200 or again 2,000 rows of data? So by naming a range, it allows you to do a function fairly simple. So we're going to do the average function equals average. This will be the first function we do. And now when it comes up, I always choose it. Okay. And it says return the average, and I always choose it, and it's asking me for my number, and I can highlight all of this, or I can just type in age. And now it brings up age. Because I named that range, it knows it. I can double click age and then just hit enter or close it and enter, and now the average age is 49.35. Okay, and that's one of the reasons we name ranges. So we're going to name another range. We're going to come here to Superstore, and we're going to grab this data from A2 all the way down to E59, E57. Okay. And notice that when I did that, I have a new button up here at the top. So I have my home insert, and this is a green button, and it's table design. So when you're working on certain things, you'll see that when we get into charts, we have whole new buttons that pop up at the top of Excel. So if I click on this, this allows me to do certain things with the table. And all that we're going to do right now is change the name. So here on the left, we have table name 1. And we're just going to rename this to Superstore and click enter. Okay. Now, if we go into formulas and do our name manager, you can see that we have age is one of our ranges we've named, and Superstore is one of it. And we can edit it and change it in here, and it shows us our information down here. And we can jump to either one of these. Okay, so if I wanted to go to age, it would jump to that, or I can jump to Superstore in some cases. All right, now that we've done that, let's go back to Superstore if we're not on there. So we've named the table. We also want to name this range, and we're going to use define name as doing that. So we're going to go from G2 down to J18. And if we're not on there, click on the Formulas tab, click under Define Name in our Name Manager, Define Name, and we're going to call this Superstore underscore finance underscore summary. And the reason why we're using Superstore is in naming ranges in Excel, you cannot use a space. So in this case, it's fairly common practice to use an underscore. And we're going to click OK. So we just named ranges using our name box, and also use our table format, and then also define name as part of the name managers in the formulas tab. Now let's hop over to the fast food tab down there, and what we're going to do is we're going to work on what's called adding sparklines. And a sparkline is a graph that you put into a single cell that shows you the trajectory of the data. So we have our data here. This is not actual data, but we have 10 different fast food companies, and we have, I just put this in, what our market share is for each year, whether it's gone up or down, and we can see what's going on. So put your cursor into L4 right there, and we're going to do this. We're going to add a sparkline. We're going to click the insert button, and to the right of our chart we see sparklines. And on your exam they may ask for a column sparkline, or a line sparkline, and either way that you do this is done the same way. It's just whether it's a column or a line. I like a line over a column, but on your exam it might be column over line. It will tell you which one to use on sparkline. So we're going to click on line, and you have a pop-up and asks you for your data range. And you can choose this pop-up right here, or while we have this one open, we can just go here and grab C4 all the way to K4, and we see that our range is C4 to K4 and our location is L4, and click OK. And we can see the what's gone with their trajectory from 2010 to 2018, and it's projecting it out. Now the one thing with sparklines, notice if I click on this L4, I can't double click. It won't copy down. So you have to manually copy that down on sparklines. And we don't show it here because this shows the total market share of these 10 companies. And so it shows McDonald's is down, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out are up, Burger King is down, Panda's up, Wendy's was up and then going down, Carl's is going down, Subway's going down, KFC is down then up, and Arctic Circle down then up. Again, these numbers are fictitious numbers just for this presentation. So besides sparklines, we get to work with conditional formatting. So on conditional formatting, that's on our home tab. So we did sparklines, that's on our insert tab. On our home tab over here, we're going to do conditional formatting. We're going to do a couple different things. We're going to do data bars and what is called traffic lights. So in data bars, we're going to go ahead and highlight 2018 data bars. And if we're not there, click on our home screen. We're going to click on the drop down on conditional formatting. Notice that it has one here called data bars. And in this case, we're going to do more rules. And I'll show you this. Let's say I just did a solid fill and did blue. It has my data in there. Okay. So sometimes this gets hard to read when your data and your bar is over the top of each other. So I'm going to highlight this, go back into conditional formatting, data bars, more rules, and then I am going to check this box right here, show bar only. And then you can change colors and things like that, and click OK, and now I have this data bar. Now let me explain this data bar. It shows that McDonald's has the greatest market share, 17.05. So 100% of this bar is 1705, and this 13.4 is the percentage. This bar is the percentage of 13.44 of the 1705. So this just shows you the relationship of the whole, not that McDonald's has 100% market share. Now on traffic lights, something on your exam will be to do conditional formatting. You'll come here and highlight it, home screen if you're not there, conditional formatting, and you have icon sets. So you can show direction. You can see that they're 3-color direction. You can show it's going up or down, and in some case it may ask you to do the 3 traffic lights. We're going to do the 3 traffic lights. Click on that and it shows you those that are positive or negative in there, not in direction but in market share of total percentage. Okay, you've completed assignment number 5 or exercise number 5. For those in the class, go ahead and save the file, rename it, and upload it to the appropriate place. For those of you that are just working on your MOS 200 exam, thank you for joining us.